You know, usually when we think about um, optimizing our sleep or like hacking our evening routines, we immediately look towards Silicon Valley.
Right. It's always about the tech.
Exactly. We look to the latest wearable tech, the blue light blocking glasses, the really complex magnesium supplements.
Oh, or some new app that promises to perfectly calibrate your circadian rhythms using a smartphone camera.
Yeah, exactly. We are always looking forward, into the future of technology, trying to find that magic bullet for rest.
Hmm.
But what if the ultimate blueprint for winding down your nervous system wasn't found in a modern sleep lab at all?
Right.
What if it was actually mapped out perfectly, brushstroke, by Impressionist artists over a century ago?
Which is such a wild concept.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a truly unique intersection of 19th century art and, well, cutting-edge 21st century neurobiology, and we're just really glad you're here for the ride.
Yeah, the materials we are looking at today represent just a remarkable synthesis of disciplines. We are drawing from this fascinating presentation that Dr. Christophe Delong and Kinexa Formation present.
Okay.
Specifically, we're diving into a module they call Day 14, the Evening Ritual.
Day 14.
Right, because this is just one piece of a much larger 15-day clinical program. It's titled Phase 3, Regeneration and Silence with the Impressionists.
Okay, let's unpack this right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because framing an Edgar Degas painting as a clinical biological blueprint is, it's quite a claim.
It's a huge claim.
Yeah. Are you really telling me that a painting of a 19th century Parisian woman getting ready for bed is somehow a legitimate medical guide to optimizing my own sleep architecture tonight?
Well,
It just sounds a bit like we're projecting modern science onto old art,
the skepticism is totally fair. Obviously, Degas didn't have a functional MRI machine in his studio.
Right. No brain scanners in 1880.
Exactly. But these artists, they were obsessive observers of human anatomy, of movement and tension. They painted the mechanical reality of the human body.
Okay.
And what Dr. Delong and Kinexa Formation are doing is applying modern neurobiological understanding to those perfect observations.
I see.
So, the baseline of this entire clinical document revolves around the neurobiology of soft, haptic repetition.
Wait, when you say haptic, we're talking about the sense of touch.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's about tactile sensation and movement. Because the goal of a proper evening ritual isn't just to, slam your laptop shut and declare the workday over.
Guilty.
Right. We all do it. But winding down is an active physiological process.
Yeah.
You have to actively lower your heart rate, shift to nasal breathing, and deliberately signal to your brain that the day's effort has actually concluded.
Mhm.
You're trying to trigger the parasympathetic transition.
Okay, let's define those states for a second, because we hear those terms thrown around a lot.
Oh.
Sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Sure. So your sympathetic nervous system is your drive, right? It's your action mode, your fight or flight response.
Like stress.
Yeah, it's what keeps you focused during a really stressful meeting or helps you dodge a car in traffic.
Right.
The parasympathetic, on the other hand, is your rest and digest mode. It's the state of repair.
Okay.
The problem is that modern humans, well, we try to just flip a switch to get from one to the other.
Oh, absolutely.
We go straight from sending stressful emails to lying flat in bed in the dark, just expecting sleep.
Just expecting the machine to power down instantly.
Exactly. But you need a bridge between those two states.
And according to this Kinexa program, that bridge is vividly illustrated in our first piece of art, which is Edgar Degas's famous painting, Femme se coiffant, or Woman Combing Her Hair.
Yes.
For you listening, if you picture this painting, it is incredibly intimate and incredibly quiet. It's a woman with this long, rich auburn hair, and she's got her arm raised, just slowly brushing it out.
It's beautiful.
It feels very suspended in time.
Mm-hmm.
It captures that exact fragile moment between the hustle of the day and the silence of the night.
Mm-hmm.
But from a clinical perspective, Dr. Delong suggests we shouldn't just be appreciating the colors or the beautiful lighting. We are supposed to be looking at the geometry of her movement.
Right. What's fascinating here is that the document provides what it calls a neuroaesthetic reading of the painting.
A neuroaesthetic reading. Okay.
Yeah. So consider the physical act of brushing hair. The movement of the arm is circular. It is inherently slow.
Yeah.
And most critically for the nervous system, it is deeply predictable.
Predictable. Why is that important?
Because the human brain is essentially a prediction machine. During the
Right.
day, the world is chaotic and unpredictable, right?
Very.
Which forces your sympathetic nervous system to stay on high alert to handle any surprises. But when you sit down and engage in a slow, circular, repetitive physical motion,
Like brushing your hair.
yes, exactly. You are flooding your brain with perfectly predictable sensory input. The brain recognizes the pattern, realizes there are no surprises coming, and finally stands down.
Oh, wow. Okay, let me see if I have this right. Is this essentially like putting your car's transmission into neutral before you actually turn off the engine?
That's a really good way to put it.
Like, if you've been driving down the highway at 90 miles an hour all day, you can't just slam the gear shift into park while you're still moving.
Right, the transmission would shatter.
Exactly. So this slow, physical repetition, the brushing of the hair, is forcing the body's machinery to stop accelerating, drop into neutral, and just idle for a second.
The mechanics of that analogy map perfectly onto the clinical perspective Kinexa formation provides.
Really?
Yeah, they analyze this exact physical transition in their patients. They are looking at how these specific circular gestures actually lower global muscle tone before sleep.
That makes a lot of sense.
By engaging in that haptic repetition, you are stepping off the gas pedal of the sympathetic nervous system and letting the physiological car glide. The document actually refers to Degas' painting as a sensory prescription.
A sensory prescription. I love the weight of that phrase.
It's great, right?
It really elevates a mundane grooming habit to something medical. But slowing down the body is really only half the battle.
Definitely.
I mean, I know for a fact that sometimes my body is perfectly still, but my brain is still running an absolute marathon.
Oh, absolutely.
I can be lying in bed, not moving a single muscle, but I'm completely consumed by an email I have to send tomorrow, or like replaying an awkward conversation from 3 years ago.
Yep, we've all been there.
The body has found neutral, but the brain absolutely has not logged off.
Which is why the physical routine is only the first layer of the protocol. If you don't address the cognitive load, the parasympathetic shift fails. This brings us to the next critical phase of the evening ritual, represented by the second painting in the program, which is Berthe Morisot's Femme à sa toilette, or Woman at Her Vanity.
This particular piece is so evocative. It's a woman, seen from behind, sitting alone at her mirror. The colors Morisot used are very soft, lots of whites, pale pinks, and pale blues. There is this overwhelming, almost heavy sense that the outside world has completely ceased to exist for her.
Yes, she's totally isolated.
Exactly. She is entirely enclosed in her own space, looking into the glass.
And that visual enclosure represents a very specific neurobiological state, which is voluntary cognitive disconnection.
Voluntary cognitive disconnection.
Yeah. Think about your attention during the day. It is entirely externalized. You are scanning your environment, reacting to screens, interpreting what your boss is saying, navigating traffic.
Constant outward focus.
Exactly. To achieve actual recovery, your attention must be forcefully withdrawn from the external world and turned inward toward your own internal sensations.
Wow, okay.
And when you do this, your brain shifts gears and activates the default mode network.
Okay, I have to admit, I've heard the term default mode network thrown around in productivity blogs.
Right.
But what is it actually doing in a clinical sense?
So the default mode network, or DMN, is a network of interacting brain regions that is active when a person is not focused on the outside world.
Okay.
It's your brain's internal housekeeping mode. It activates during daydreaming, deep introspection, or when you're just letting your mind wander.
So it's basically the opposite of the focused working state.
Right. You cannot achieve deep restorative sleep if your brain is still stuck in its task-positive, externally focused network.
So you have to manually trigger the DMN.
Exactly. The physical ritual of personal care, sitting quietly at a mirror, looking at yourself, feeling the sensation of washing your face, it becomes a mechanical protocol for triggering the DMN. It forces that cognitive withdrawal.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's almost like closing all the browser tabs you have open on your computer before shutting it down.
That's a perfect analogy.
You can't just hit the power button if you still have 40 tabs running complex tasks. But here is where the Kinexa document gets into some terminology I need you to translate.
Yeah.
It frames this mirror ritual specifically around the concept of bodily presence and reconnecting with your own physical schema. What does physical schema mean in this context?
Your physical schema is essentially your brain's mental map of your body in space. It's how you know where your limbs are without looking at them.
Okay, right.
During the day, when you are bombarded by the outside world, your sense of self gets stretched thin across all your external responsibilities.
Yeah, you forget you even have a body sometimes.
Exactly. Sitting in that mirror, touching your own face, is a literal recentering. It is a neurological way of saying, where do I end and where does the rest of the world begin? I am right here.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You are pulling your awareness back into the physical boundaries of your own skin.
And from Kinexa's analytical perspective, this isn't just theory, it is a measurable phenomenon.
I can measure it.
Yeah. In their clinical work, they observe patients attempting to enter that default mode network state. They are specifically measuring the progressive drop in resting muscle tone as the person disconnects cognitively.
Oh, wow. So if you're stressed, your muscles stay tight.
Exactly. If a patient can't disconnect from their daytime stressors, their resting muscle tone stays visibly high. They remain physically tense. Berth Morisot captured the exact, relaxed posture of a nervous system that has successfully severed its connection to the external world.
Okay, so we've engaged in haptic repetition, brushing the hair, put the body in neutral.
Yep.
We've looked in the mirror to log off the brain, pull back into our physical schema, and activate the default mode network.
Right.
But what happens in that liminal space, right after the effort stops, but before you actually hit deep sleep?
Oh, that's a crucial phase.
Because I always feel like there's a residual hum in my body, especially after a really stressful day.
Correct.
How does the biological machinery handle that leftover tension?
That residual hum is a very real, documented physiological state. And it leads us directly to the third phase of the program, which is illustrated by Edgar Degas's Danseuses en Rose, or The Dancers in Pink.
Oh, this scene is brilliant, mostly because of what it isn't.
Exactly.
It's not a painting of ballerinas dancing on stage, but it's also not a painting of them sleeping. It's the direct, immediate aftermath of intense physical effort.
Yes.
They are standing off into the wings, leaning against things,
Yeah.
catching their breath, just letting their bodies settle. The adrenaline is still clearly there. You can almost feel the physical heat radiating off them, but the action is over.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what Degas is depicting here is the clinical concept of active recovery.
Active recovery, yeah.
As we established, you don't just go from 100 miles an hour to zero. After intense effort, whether that's a ballet performance or, a 12-hour shift at a hospital,
Yeah.
the muscles need time to gradually release their tension.
Okay.
The body performs what the French text beautifully calls a descente en charge, an unloading ritual.
An unloading ritual, like a cool-down lap for the nervous system.
Exactly.
If you go for a 5-mile run, you don't just immediately lie down flat on the pavement the second you finish.
Right, you'd cramp up.
You walk it out for 10 minutes, you let the system wind down.
That is the exact mechanism.
Hmm.
This transitional phase is completely indispensable for sleep architecture. The Kinexa text notes that in this specific moment, the muscles are literally remembering the effort.
Remembering the effort.
Yeah, they're undergoing what is called a tonic discharge.
Tonic discharge. Unpack that one for me. Are we talking about electrical impulses?
Essentially, yes. Muscle tone is maintained by continuous low-grade electrical signals from your nervous system.
Okay.
After a day of effort, those signals don't just instantly vanish. The tonic discharge is the process of those lingering electrical charges slowly dissipating. The tension slowly dissolves, but the cellular memory of the movement is still echoing.
It makes me think of an old steam radiator. Yeah, when you turn off the heat, the radiator doesn't instantly go cold. It sits there, and it ticks, and it clanks, and it hisses as the metal slowly contracts and the heat dissipates.
The radiator ticking as it cools is a great way to visualize the tonic discharge.
Right.
If you try to skip this active recovery phase, if you just crash into bed while your system is still ticking and hissing with electrical charge, your sleep architecture will be fractured.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the deep reparative work of the night cannot take over because the body hasn't finished unloading the day's stress.
Which smoothly brings us to what happens when the radiator finally goes quiet, the final destination of this whole evening protocol, which is total biological surrender.
Yes.
For this, the program turns to our fourth piece of art, Pierre-Auguste Renoir's painting, Le Sommeil, or The Sleep.
This painting represents the culmination of everything we've discussed. Renoir paints a state of complete muscular release. It is the absolute picture of physical abandonment.
Yeah.
The subject's body has stopped resisting gravity entirely.
Just looking at the painting, you can feel how heavy the subjects are. It's not just someone resting their eyes, it's a total collapse into the mattress. It's a profound, boneless heaviness.
Physiologically, this represents the absolute completion of that tonic discharge we just talked about.
Good.
The sympathetic nervous system is fully powered down. Respiration has become slow, deep, and rhythmic. And most importantly, because the body has completely surrendered and the muscles are totally quiet, the brain can finally switch into consolidation mode.
So what does this all mean? We're asleep, but the brain is actually working overtime, right? We generally think of sleep as a time when we are doing absolutely nothing. We're unconscious, the machine is off.
Right, but that's a huge misconception.
But you're saying that underneath that total muscular release, the brain is actually powering up to do heavy lifting.
The brain is doing its most critical work of the entire 24-hour cycle. The text emphasizes the concept of nighttime neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
Yes. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to form and reorganize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning or experience.
Okay.
When you reach this state of total muscular abandonment, it is the critical phase where every new skill you learned, every movement you repeated, and every piece of complex information you took in during the day is permanently inscribed into your neural circuits.
So the body has to be physically muted so the brain can hit the save button on the day.
Think of it like pouring wet concrete.
Okay.
During the day, you are pouring the concrete. You are gathering experiences, learning things, moving your body. But for that concrete to actually set and become a permanent foundation, it requires absolute stillness.
Ah, I see.
If you keep walking through the wet concrete, it never sets properly. The body must be entirely quiet so the brain can wire and fire, laying down new permanent tracks. Kinexa formation measures this exact phase to determine the depth of recovery and the quality of physical release.
That is incredible. If your muscle tone doesn't drop completely because you skip the wind-down rituals, your neuroplasticity is compromised. You literally retain less from your day.
Exactly.
Sitting back and looking at this whole 15-day program, I just have to marvel at the intuition here. Degas, Morisot, Renoir, they didn't have the vocabulary of neurobiology.
No, of course not.
They couldn't map the default mode network. But they observed the human form with such precision that they painted the exact physiological states we are now desperately trying to biohack our way back into.
It's really profound.
But this brings me to a major question about the sources today. You mentioned earlier that Dr. Christophe Delong and Kinexa formation present this as clinical data.
Yeah.
How does looking at a 19th century painting generate actual data? Are they somehow scanning at the brushstrokes? How does this become a 21st century medical tool?
Well, they aren't extracting data from the canvas itself.
Oh.
This raises an important question about how we measure this today. They are using artificial intelligence in clinical settings to analyze the movements and biometrics of modern patients, using the principles depicted in the paintings as their algorithmic baseline.
Okay, walk me through exactly how that works. I'm a patient in this clinic. What is the AI doing?
Let's say you are performing the evening ritual. You are engaging in haptic repetition, sitting quietly.
Brushing my hair, yeah.
Exactly. The Kinexa clinicians use AI-driven motion tracking and biometric sensors to monitor your physical state.
Yep.
The AI is analyzing micromovements, changes in your resting muscle tone, your respiration rate, and the subtle shifts in your posture.
It's tracking everything.
Yeah, it is constantly calculating. Is this patient successfully entering a parasympathetic state? Are they achieving the cognitive disconnection we saw in Morisot's painting? Have they completed the descent in charge we saw in Degas's dancers?
That is absolutely wild.
Right.
So the AI is quantifying the depth of your recovery based on visual and physical cues that these artists identified 100 years ago.
Right. The AI can evaluate the quality of your rest signal with incredible precision. If your muscle tone remains too high, the AI flags that your nervous system hasn't completed the tonic discharge.
Wow.
They literally took the visual wisdom of the 1800s, the understanding that specific postures and predictable movements lead to specific internal states, and wrote an algorithm to measure it in the 2020s.
Taking the sheer intuition of an Impressionist master and translating it into a diagnostic algorithm, it really brings us to the core quote from the Kinexa document that wraps up this whole analysis perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Referring to these specific masterworks and the protocols they represent, the document states, "It is not a painting, it is a reset button for your prefrontal cortex."
A reset button for the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
The prefrontal cortex is your executive function. It's your decision maker, your emotional regulator, your primary stress manager during the chaotic daytime hours.
The CEO of the brain.
Exactly. And by the end of the day, it is exhausted. It desperately needs to be reset, and that reset cannot happen just by wishing for it. It requires a highly specific biological protocol that begins with the physical body, not the mind.
So, to bring this all home for you listening,
Yeah.
your evening wind down isn't just about killing time until you feel tired enough to sleep.
No, not at all.
It's not just doom scrolling on your phone or watching another episode of a show until you inevitably pass out. It is a required neurobiological sequence.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with the slow haptic repetition of something as simple as brushing your hair, putting the car in neutral. Then it requires the cognitive withdrawal of finding your bodily presence, looking in the mirror, activating the default mode network, and closing those mental browser tabs.
Right.
You have to allow for the act of recovery, letting the radiator tick as you dissolve residual tension. Only then can you achieve the complete muscular surrender necessary for nighttime neuroplasticity to lock in the day's learning.
And that leaves us with a final thought for you to consider, building on everything we've uncovered in these sources today.
Okay, what is it?
We established that haptic repetition and slow, predictable gestures are required to signal the end of the day to the nervous system.
Right.
With that in mind, take a hard look at your own evening habits. When you are feeling stressed, exhausted, or struggling to wind down, are there unconscious, repetitive physical gestures you find yourself doing?
Oh, interesting.
Do you sit on the couch drumming your fingers on your leg? Do you unconsciously rub the back of your neck? Do you pace the kitchen floor or find yourself continuously, rhythmically stroking a pet?
We usually view those things as signs of anxiety, right? Just fidgeting because we can't calm down.
We do, but what if they aren't just anxious fidgets? What if they are actually your brain's desperate instinctual attempt to force a parasympathetic shift? What if your body intuitively knows it needs a descent in charge, and it is trying to prescribe itself the exact sensory medicine that Degas painted over 100 years ago, but you just haven't been consciously listening?
That is a profoundly fascinating lens to look through, reframing our restless evening habits, not as anxiety, but as our own nervous system begging for a proper cool-down lap.
Exactly.
We hope this gives you a whole new appreciation for your evening routine and maybe a little grace for yourself as you attempt to wind down in a very loud world. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into these incredible sources.
Thanks for having me.
Tonight, when you step away from the noise of the day and start your own evening ritual, think of a Degas and Renoir. Pay attention to those slow circular movements. Log off the brain, let the radiator tick, and let your nervous system begin its silent, brilliant repair. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.